What if I told you that some of the most fascinating civilizations in human history have been completely erased from our school books? They built great cities, created complex systems of knowledge, and then vanished, leaving only whispers behind. Today, we're diving into 5 forgotten civilizations that were once powerful, now nearly erased by time. You've heard of Rome, Egypt, and Greece, but these, you've probably never even come across their names. Get ready to uncover what history tried to hide. This is 5 lost civilizations you never learned about in school. Chapter 1: The Kingdom of Aksum, the Forgotten Empire of Africa. In the highlands of what is now Ethiopia, there once thrived a mighty empire, Aksum. By the 4th century CE, Aksum was one of the world's greatest trading powers, rivaling Rome and Persia. They minted their own coins, built towering stone obelisks, and even adopted Christianity before many European states. Their capital was a bustling metropolis, with trade routes connecting Africa to Arabia and India. But despite its achievements, Aksum is rarely mentioned in world history classes. Why? Because African civilizations have often been marginalized in traditional Western education. The decline of Aksum is still debated. Climate change, soil exhaustion, or perhaps the rise of Islamic trade routes cutting them off from global commerce. Whatever the reason, Aksum faded, leaving behind stunning ruins and a legacy overshadowed by colonial narratives. Chapter 2: The Indus Valley Civilization. The mystery of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Before Egypt built its pyramids and before Babylon rose to glory, a civilization flourished along the Indus River. This was the Indus Valley Civilization, home to the ancient cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro in present-day Pakistan and northwest India. These cities had complex urban planning grid systems, sewage, public baths. Yet what's most astonishing is their apparent lack of warfare or social hierarchy. No grand palaces, no warrior kings. It's just organized advanced societies. With a script we still can't decipher, it's as if they whispered their story into stone and left, hoping someday we'd understand. But the Indus Valley doesn't get the spotlight it deserves in classrooms. Why? Partly because colonial history's undervalued non-Western achievements. Partly because we simply haven't cracked their language. So much of their voice remains silent. Their decline? Likely due to climate shifts, drying rivers, and possibly the migration of Indo-Aryan peoples, they vanished quietly. But their influence echoes in South Asian culture even today. Chapter 3: The Hittites, masters of iron and empire. Asterisk. You've heard of the Egyptians, the Babylonians, and the Assyrians. But what about the Hittites? This powerful Anatolian empire ruled much of modern day Turkey and Syria around 1600 BCE. They were among the first to master ironworking, an advancement that would eventually change warfare forever. Their military strength rivaled Egypt, and they even signed what is considered the first recorded peace treaty with Ramses II after the famous Battle of Kadesh. Yet for centuries, historians believed the Hittites were a myth until archaeological discoveries in the 20th century proved they were very real. They had their own language, legal systems, and an empire that stood for 500 years. Their sudden disappearance around 1200 BCE, part of the larger Bronze Age collapse, is still debated. Invasions, internal strife, and famine may have played a role. But the Hittites were buried in the sands of time, till the spade of archaeology unearthed their story. Chapter 4: The Sogdians. The lost merchants of the Silk Road. Between the Persian and Chinese empires once lived a people who connected east and west. They were the Sogdians, skilled traders, diplomats, and cultural intermediaries. Their homeland was in Central Asia, modern-day Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. Their cities thrived on the Silk Road, bringing not only silk and spices, but also ideas: Buddhism, Christianity, Zoroastrianism. The Sogdians wrote in their own script, spoke a distinct language, and built multicultural hubs in cities like Samarkand. They were not a military empire, but a cultural one, spreading art, religion, and language across continents. Yet today, their name is nearly forgotten. The rise of Islamic empires eventually absorbed Sogdian culture, and their cities were either destroyed or transformed. Their legacy lives on in fragments in art, in trade records, in the DNA of the region. But most school books never mention them. Chapter 5. The Muisca. The real people behind El Dorado. Everyone's heard of El Dorado, the legendary city of gold. But did you know it was inspired by a real civilization? The Muisca, who lived in the Andean highlands of what is now Colombia, were known for their incredible gold craftsmanship. When a new chief took power, he would cover himself in gold dust and dive into Lake Guatavita in a ritual of renewal. This image of a golden man sparked centuries of myths and conquests. But the Muisca were more than just the origin of a legend. They had a sophisticated society with advanced agriculture, calendars, and governance. When the Spanish arrived, they didn't find El Dorado, but they destroyed Muisca culture in the search for it. Much of their language and tradition was lost, silenced by colonization. And so, the real story behind El Dorado remains hidden beneath the myth. Conclusion: the silence of history. Why do we forget these civilizations? Is it because they left behind few ruins? Because they didn't conquer half the world? Or because colonial narratives chose to celebrate some cultures while burying others? History is not just what we remember. It's also what we choose to forget. These 5 civilizations remind us that the human story is far richer, far stranger, and far more diverse than we're often taught. There are thousands of stories still waiting to be uncovered, waiting for someone to ask the right questions. Maybe that someone is you. If this video opened your eyes to a hidden piece of our past, don't let it end here. Subscribe for more untold stories and forbidden histories. Comment below. Which civilization surprised you the most? Or do you know of another that deserves the spotlight? Like this video if you believe forgotten voices deserve to be heard. And most importantly, stay curious, because history doesn't belong to the victors. It belongs to those who seek it.